sutta. This is really relevant to monastic life, particularly. And so here the Buddha is speaking about how a person who possesses three qualities should be known as a fool. Okay, so it's speaking about transgressions, and I think the Pali word is probably apatti. Or acchaya. Okay, so here, the first is that a person does not see his transgression as... So somebody, you say, breaks a precept, whether it's... Actually, we could also apply it to household life, to lay precepts. So somebody breaks a precept, whether a lay precept or a monastic precept, and people might point it out to him, but he refuses to recognize it. So he denies that he's broken that precept. Or it might be the case, maybe not the case, that somebody doesn't point it out, but the person should know what the precepts are and breaks the precept, but doesn't recognize that he's broken the precept. Okay, then within the framework of the Vinaya, the monastic discipline, there are certain ways of making the simplest, the appropriate way to make amends is simply to confess it to another monk, for nuns to another nun. In the more serious cases, the most serious kind of transgression entails expulsion from the Sangha, and the next grade of severity requires that the monastic undergo a period of a certain penalty over a period of time. Okay, but in this case, the Buddha speaking about the fool, he recognizes his transgression, but he doesn't make amends for it. He'll just persist stubbornly in his transgressive ways without trying to correct himself. Okay, but now the interesting case is the third one. Okay, you see, when one monk breaks the precept and he confesses to another monk, then the other monk is supposed to say, do you He wants that monk, he doesn't want to help that monk rehabilitate himself from the transgression. And so he refuses to hear the transgression, refuses to hear the confession, refuses to help the transgressor rehabilitate himself. Okay, so one who behaves in these three ways is called a fool. And then the marks of the wise person is that when one commits a transgression, one recognizes it as such. If one has good knowledge about the training rules, then in committing the transgression, one will immediately recognize it. If not, it could be that other people point out one's fault, and then one recognizes it. And then when one recognizes the fault, then one makes the appropriate amends for it, even if it means that if one has committed the most serious kind of transgression, then in recognizing it, then the honorable thing to do is to leave the monastic life. And then the third case is that when somebody confesses a transgression, then one accepts it in the appropriate way. So those are the marks of a wise person. Okay, another sutta on the distinction between the fool and